Let's use a plastic trim tool. We're going to come right along the front here in the center. Once I press this down, I'm going to try to go in as far as I can. There's a little latch under here that we want to get in between. There we are. Now we can pop it up. That's what the latch looks like there. Just kind of pry it on it and it popped apart. And on the far side, you have this area that goes underneath the door panel. Keep that in mind for the installation process. Now let's start removing the wiring harness. For this, I'm going to use a small screwdriver. Looking at one side, you're going to find a little push tab. Carefully get in between this area, press on it, and separate the wiring from the switch. Give it a quick inspection for corrosion. Assuming it looks good, go ahead and set that aside. Now let's move up to the handle area. You're going to find a single Phillips head screw. Go ahead and remove that. Once you have that screw out, continue on down to this door handle area. Deep inside the hole, you're going to find another Phillips head screw. Remove that one. Let's remove this as well. Now let's move up here to this corner area. We'll use our plastic trim tool, get underneath this, pop it off of there. Now let's come down from there, and along the side of the trim panel, you're going to find that you have a push clip. For this, you want to go ahead and carefully turn the center counterclockwise to remove it. Now I'll continue on with my metal trim tool, and I'll pop this out of here. That's what it should look like. Let's continue with our plastic trim tool and make our way along the door panel. We're trying to find an area that we can get in between the door and the panel itself and gently separate it. Once you have it pulled away from the door, go ahead and lift it up. You want to make sure you make it up and over your door lock. Now that the panel is off, let's move along to this area. You're going to find two more 10mm headed bolts. Remove both bolts and the bracket. Let's carefully grab onto our weather barrier. We'll start pulling it down. Be careful for all this black stuff right here. That's considered butyl tape and it's extremely sticky. If you get it on your clothes, it's going to ruin them. And if it goes through the laundry, well, you can guess what would happen. Now with that out of the way, we have a nice clear view of our outside door handle. On the door handle, you're going to find that you have two rods, one that leads to the handle itself, and then all the way on the far side here, you're going to find another rod that leads to the door lock. We're going to have to remove both of those rods. For the first rod right up here, all you want to do is grab onto it with your small pocket screwdriver or even trim tool. I'm going to carefully pull it towards me, and that pops it free. Now at this point, let's continue on with our trim tool. I'm going to carefully get in between the handle and the rod itself and gently twist to separate the two. There we are. Now for the next rod, let's continue by using a pick. I'm going to come up inside the door and we're going to come right over to where the rod is. Looking at the rod, you're going to find that you have a yellow locking tab. I'll come around the back side of that locking tab and carefully try to pull it off. There we are. Now once you have it separated, go ahead and pull the rod right out of there. Now we can start removing the two 10mm headed mounting bolts. You're going to find one right out in the open, and the second one's going to be easiest to get through coming through this hole here. Start with the hardest one. There's that one. Now I'm going to reach from the inside and the outside and carefully remove the door handle from the door. Let's get over to the bench. Now over at the bench, let's continue by removing the lock from the original door handle. For the lock, all you want to do is carefully grab onto it and the handle at the same time. We're going to twist the lock counterclockwise so it unlocks from the door handle. Once it's unlocked, go ahead and lift it up and out. There it is, friends. All right, now it's going to be time to prepare the door handle for installation. Let's take our door lock and put it in position. When you slide this down on here, you want to have it essentially just like this. The reason why that is because on this far side, on the door lock itself, you can see that you have a nub that protrudes out. And right on the door handle itself, you're going to have a slot that it needs to match up with. So with that said, I'll press it down and twist it clockwise to lock it in. As it locks in, I also want to be lining up my bolt holes. All right, let's get back over to the vehicle. Let's carefully slide this into the door, starting with the top first. You also want to make sure that this area makes its way under. Go ahead and pop that right in there. Let's start putting in our two 10mm mounting bolts. Once you have both of them started, go ahead and snug them up. You want to make sure these are nice and tight. Now I'm going to reach inside, hold on to that lock rod, and we'll slide it in position into the door handle. Once you have it slid in as far as you can, make sure you lock it down with that little yellow connector. Listen for a click, give it a nice tug to make sure it's completely secure. Now we can do the door handle rod. Same thing. Go ahead and grab it, put it in position, slide it in, then lock it down with the yellow connector. Give it a nice tug, make sure it's secure. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab onto the door handle from the outside and just make sure that rod is functioning properly. That looks good. Before we continue with putting everything back together, let's make sure we test the door handle functionality with the latch. The best way to do this is with either a 1/4-inch extension or even a Phillips head screwdriver. We're going to come right inside the latch area and press it in as if we were shutting the door. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull on that, essentially trying to open the door. It does not want to open. Now I'll reach up, grab that outside door handle and give it a tug. As you can tell, it released right away. That's exactly what you want. I'll try one more time. I'm pressing, it's definitely latched, and then it releases. At this point, I know that this is functioning perfectly and we can continue. Let's take that vapor barrier and we'll start sliding it back into its original position. You want to try to get this to stick back on as good as you can. Let's get our metallic bracket on here. Snug it up. All right, now it's time to put on the door panel. There's going to be several areas to think about with this. You have several push clips that need to fit in with their corresponding holes in the door. Up along the top here, you're going to have this area that needs to fit down and over this area of the door. You have the hole for where your door lock needs to go through. And of course, on the door itself, you have wiring that you want to pay attention to. Let's start taking this, and I'm going to grab that wiring. We'll get it right into its proper position. Now I'm going to bring this up, put it up and over the door lock. We'll slide that through the hole. I'm going to press the top of the door up against the window so I'm sure that those hooks along the top are sliding in where they're supposed to be. Now once that's down as far as it can go, continue on by lining up all those push clips that make their way around the door and pressing it into position. Let's install our window switch. Lock it in, listen for a click. Now we're going to roll this. We want to make sure that we have this area down under the door panel, slide it rearward, and then bring it down. Listen for a click, double check to make sure it's secure. Let's get this inside handle on here. you have several little tabs that need to line up with their corresponding holes. Once it's in there, continue by putting in your Phillips head screw. Let's put in our plastic push tab. Make sure it's in the unlock position. Essentially, you want the center pulled out. We'll press that in with the outer aspect and then lock it in with the center. Now let's get this plastic trim piece in here. Looking at this, you can see that you have a push tab and you have several areas that show you that it needs to be pressed down before you press in the push tab. Press that down, lock it in. Let's put in our last Phillips head screw in the center here. Okay friends, we got the door back together. The last thing that I always like to do is just double check everything's functionality. Thanks for watching.